In this video, we'll talk about Amazon DSP, Demand Side Platform. In this session, you will learn why and how you should use this Amazon advertising platform. Our guest today will be Mark James from Perpetua. Perpetua is an e-commerce advertising optimization and intelligence software. And actually, Perpetua is one of the sponsors of this session as well. So as I said, they are optimizing advertising on different platforms, not only on Amazon, but also on Walmart and a few other marketplaces. So check the link below in the description. Besides Perpetua, we have a few more sponsors, companies sponsoring this event, this video. It's Getida, their FBA audit and reimbursement service. They help to claim money back from Amazon, and they get this money for you. So check them out, link below in the description. Also, another company is Unibrands, is a FBA acquire. They buy, build Amazon and Shopify direct-to-consumer brands. So if you want to exit your e-commerce business, talk to them. Next company supporting this session is Helium 10. They are all-in-one suite for Amazon and Walmart sellers. Check the link below. And finally, last but not least, Z is also part of this session, and they are full service for compliance, customs, and logistics. And they are basically one-stop shop if you want to expand your e-commerce business globally. While you're watching this session where we'll talk about Amazon DSP, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel of Orange Klik to be notified about new videos we upload. And this specific session I'm hosting together with Lisette. Hello, Lisette.
Hi, Augustus. Hi, everybody else as well. Super excited to invite Mark for running today's session about Amazon DSP ads. So hi, Mark. And could you please first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit what you do in the Amazon space and also in Perpetua before we go to our today's presentation?
Of course, yeah. And hi, everyone. My name's Mark, and my title is Head of Region for Europe for Perpetua. It means I'm responsible for growing our business and ensuring we build software that's relevant for the region of Europe. For those of you that don't know Perpetua, what we do is we build software to help advertisers across marketplaces. Of course, Amazon is the main marketplace that we support, although we have tools for Walmart, Instacart, and we partner with the likes of Criteo and Citrus Ad. But the objective of why we build the software is to make the lives of advertisers easier by building automation tools that save them a lot of time and ultimately make them a lot more effective at their day-to-day job.
Okay, awesome. Sounds really good. So I think everybody are excited to hear your presentation and also everybody listening to us right now live, then don't forget to write questions for Mark as well in the chat box because he will answer those after the presentation. So let's go ahead, share your screen and let's see what you have for us.
So I've shared my screen and hopefully everyone can see my slides now. It's my pleasure today to talk to you guys about the Amazon DSP and share some tips and tricks, which is based on practical advice on how to and also how not to do it. You'll learn from some mistakes that we've made along the way. In terms of what I'm going to run through in the session, I'm going to give you my easy way to understand the DSP. I think it's talked about a lot, but there's not a great understanding of what it is and how it works, and hopefully give you some guidance as to whether or not it's the right tool for you to start using. If it is, I'll talk about some of the targeting methods that you should start to explore, even touch on how much you should think about spending, and share some of the common challenges we come across. I'll finish up the session by sharing with you our benchmarks, and it's a little teaser for what's to come as we release our Q1 benchmarks over the coming weeks. As I just mentioned in my introduction, for anyone that doesn't know us, we are a software company that, as we describe, gives superpowers to anyone that sells online. The superpowers that we enable for sellers is ways to run your advertising much more efficiently and effectively with automation. And when we actually build this technology, in our minds at all times is to build growth infrastructure for a full funnel approach to retail media. The words full funnel approach are something that should be considered as we go through this video, because DSP is absolutely one of those tools which those that want to leverage the Amazon media space should definitely be thinking about to complete that funnel and touch users across the journey. But we'll come to that a little bit later for everyone's reference. Perpetua, yes, we're experts in Amazon DSP. We also have software and services that supports Amazon's sponsored advertising, as well as other retail media platforms like Walmart, Target, and Instacart. And if you want to know more, as Augusta said, please come to our website or come to us directly to ask for some more information. But let's get to the topic of today. If you're like me, you may be a visual learner, or at least learn by imagining yourself in an experience that's more familiar to you. And the DSP, let's face it, is not something that is particularly familiar to a lot of us. So I want to take you to a situation that I'm sure you are familiar with, which is this: walking through a shopping centre, as we call it in the UK, shopping mall, I'm sure everywhere else. And if your childhood's looked anything like mine, you will have gone through one of these shopping malls regularly at the weekends, perhaps with your family and your parents. In fact, it used to be a fun activity back in the days. Perhaps that's showing my parents' obsession with shopping, or indeed my age. But imagine yourself walking through one of these shopping malls. Why is this relevant? I think it's important to liken the experience of running advertising as the experience of being in store or in mall. So let's firstly talk about something I think everybody in this call is familiar with, certainly should be familiar with, which is sponsored advertising. And sponsored advertising is the notion of, if you think about it in the real world, someone's walked into the shop, just like this lady has with her basket, and the shop in this case is, of course, Amazon, and she's just about to walk down the flowers aisle. Sponsored advertising gives you a way to put your flowers right in front of this person's eyes at the point that she is ready to purchase. She's in that shop to buy flowers. And that is the objective of sponsored advertising. When someone's there looking for your types of products, make sure you're advertising in prominent positions in order to attract the consumer. But the first mistake I see a lot of people make is treating DSP like sponsored advertising. And it couldn't be more different. Amazon DSP is, albeit this is an exaggerated example, is akin to running an ad on a billboard in Times Square. Oftentimes, no one has any shopping intent at that point. There's lots of people, there's a lot of noise. In fact, they're probably there sightseeing, trying to take photos that they can put onto their Instagram and show off the fact that they're in New York. But this prime position where there's lots of people, lots of eyeballs available, is a great place for brands to advertise and capture people's attention. And that's why people spend vast amounts of money doing this in Times Square in particular. And why I'm sharing this with you is the tactics you employ to do an ad in Times Square is completely different to the tactics you employ to do an ad for someone that's at the point of purchase. And you need to treat them differently. It's actually sometimes like this in the DSP, but more often than not, it's a little bit more like this, where perhaps the customer is in market for something, perhaps they're even in the shopping mall, and you get the chance to show them something to do with your product and your brand in that moment as part of their experience. But it's still not the same as showing your ad as somebody walks right in the door, as sponsored advertising is. So lesson one, please do not treat Amazon DSP, if you do choose to do it, in the same way as you do sponsored advertising, because I think you'll set yourself up to fail. So away from the fun examples of being in shopping malls and Times Square, and back to the reality, which is Amazon Ads Tech and the DSP. What is it? If you'd like to understand it at a high level, put very simply, the Amazon DSP enables advertisers to programmatically buy, display video and audio ads in both an on Amazon and off Amazon environment. Anyone not familiar with the word programmatically, it simply means in real time. And that transaction happens through an auction, just as it does in sponsored advertising, and you can buy inventory both on and off Amazon. Probably the biggest value add of the DSP, certainly over and above other DSPs that exist in the ecosystem, is the ability to leverage Amazon's incredibly extensive first-party user base and first-party audience data. Amazon knows everything about what people are looking for, what they've bought in the past, and what those audiences are specifically interested in. And you can use that to your advantage to create highly targeted, highly relevant advertising experiences wherever users are shopping online. Big difference between Amazon DSP and a lot of other types of advertising on Amazon is that the inventory is bought on what's called a CPM, which stands for cost per 1,000 impressions basis, which is different to cost per click, of course. And mainly people have used the DSP when they want to invest in building a brand or driving product awareness with what's called a full funnel strategy. The other unique value add of the Amazon DSP is the access to exclusive supply. This is the only way that you can target users on Amazon owned and operated inventory programmatically. So take, for example, Amazon Fire TV or Twitch or IMDb. Great way to target those users with that first party data. But important to note, it's not exclusively Amazon inventory. There are firstly third party exchanges, which are essentially open parts of the internet where lots of DSPs can plug into and buy media. And there's also Amazon publisher services, which are a select list of publishers that Amazon works with in order to provide inventory to be bought through the DSP. But when you combine this incredibly powerful user base, incredibly powerful first-party data with a super fast programmatic buying interface and the inventory that's available to buy through it, really, if you can get good at this, and it is a brand, you have a brand that you want to build the awareness for, or a product that needs to build awareness for, it's a great tool set at your disposal. The other thing that forms a big part of Amazon DSP these days, but isn't often talked about, is something called AMC, which stands for Amazon Marketing Cloud. This is a relatively complex piece of kit, and I would not encourage exploring this unless you have data analytics in your blood, or indeed have analysts in-house that can help you. But if you can, this can give you the ability to track a user's journey through all ads touch points, both on and off Amazon, to get a really complete picture of what that user journey looks like. And I'm sharing a really great example of something we've just released recently with our partner in North America, Four Sigmatic, alongside their agency Cartograph, where we used the DSP and AMC together to really understand the impact that the DSP media buying was having on the full funnel. And we found some really interesting insights by connecting these things together. We found that new audiences were 3.3 times more likely to purchase after viewing both a streaming TV and a sponsored products ad. They were 1.4 times more likely to purchase after viewing both a streaming TV and display ad. And we increased the new to brand purchases by 105%. So if your objective is to build interest in new to brand customers and to understand the impact of upper funnel media on the bottom of the funnel, then DSP plus AMC is a great combination. I think actually before I move on, I think something that needs to be raised is that DSP is certainly not for everyone. And I want to make sure that people are really aware of that. And they should really, as a first point, make sure you explore sponsored display in its entirety before you start thinking about running DSP. Why do I think that's the case? First and foremost, the capabilities is, I'm plucking a number relatively out of the air, but something like 60% of what you can do on the DSP, you can do in sponsored display. So a really great starting point. Secondly, a lot of you will not be used to running upper funnel media, and sponsored display gives you a really great way to start to test how running upper funnel media contributes to lower funnel sales in a, I would say, much easier, much more self-serve, self-sufficient environment. In fact, the DSP is not something you can access alone. You'll need to work with a partner that's plugged into the DSP network in what's called a seat in order to access it. But sponsored display, of course, you can buy natively through the ad console and is very, very easy to test. So I encourage you to start there, but perhaps you're saying, well, you know what, Mark, I've done that. I've exhausted sponsored display. I'm ready to start exploring the DSP. Your first question will be, now that I have access, what targeting strategies should I use? So I'm going to share with you now some of the targeting strategies we use all the time. And for simplicity, I'm going to split them into, let's say, upper funnel and bottom of the funnel strategies. Upper funnel is all about essentially building awareness, finding new customers to acquire. And bottom of the funnel is all about being much closer to the point of purchase and even running retargeting on people that have already purchased from you. But let's start with the upper funnel strategies. The goal of these, of course, is to increase the number of people exposed to you and try and do it in a cost-efficient way. And the two most common tactics that we use are in-market shoppers and competitor conquesting. In-market audiences are those that are, if you think back to the example of being in the shop, they're in the aisle. You know, they're there. We know that they're in market for those flowers, and we're ready to tell them about our offering. We can use Amazon's targeting to target people in market for specific types of goods, and we can use in-market targeting to build awareness of our products. A great KPI to measure the effectiveness is impressions, how many people are seeing my brand and my offering, and click-through rate. How many of those people are actually interested in going and exploring my offering further? Key point to note, the word ROAS is not there. So make sure you know that this is certainly not, at this stage, a ROAS driving activity. Same goes for competitor conquesting. Competitor conquesting is, I know this person has viewed or bought my competitor's flowers. Let's target those people with my ads and see whether they'd consider switching brands. Great way to measure the effectiveness is detailed page view rate, which gauges the level of interest, or estimated cost per detailed page view. If we look at bottom of the funnel strategies, three of the most common tactics we use to not just maximize ROAS, but continue to reach those customers who are right on the edge of making a purchase, and maybe even to prevent an abandoned cart. Contextual targeting is targeting people, again, in aisle, in market, but right at that point where they're ready to make a purchase, and we can target them in context, perhaps even on Amazon. Cross-selling is, we know that they've bought chocolates, and perhaps they're gifting they're trying to do some gifts around Valentine's Day. So let's cross-sell them with our flowers. We can target people that have bought those chocolates in the last 30 days. Or remarketing, people that bought our flowers last Valentine's Day, that we want to show them again so they come and build really high lifetime value with my brand. The metrics we'd encourage you looking at for these bottom of the funnel strategies are much closer to the point of purchase. So ROAS and total ROAS is something you could look at, but I would still encourage you to look at some more, let's say, further from the point of purchase metrics like click-through rate, detailed page view rate. And a really important one to look at is new to brand purchase percentage. How many people that are buying have never bought from us before? So now you know how you can practically use the data and the audiences in the DSP. Your next question will probably be, how much should I spend? And our guidance is that your budget should be roughly somewhere between a fifth and a third of what you spend on sponsored advertising to begin with. The other really important thing to note, and this might sound obvious, but you must also keep your sponsored advertising spend on at the same time. Why is that? Because remember, you're building upper funnel awareness and trying to drive people to the point of purchase. If you pull off trying to convert people on, for example, the search results page through sponsored products, through sponsored display or sponsored brands, you might miss the chance to convert that person that you've just spent all that money and time building interest in, and they may well go to a competitor. But around a fifth to a third of sponsored ad spend is a good guideline. How you should split that spend really depends on what your goal is. If you are purely focused on sales efficiency, then we would recommend splitting something like 30-70 or 40-60 in favor of lower funnel media. So spend less on upper, more on lower. But key thing to note, there is a combination there. You will not drive lower funnel interest and sales efficiency without first working high in the upper funnel. I'm going to share a case study in a moment of how we did that and the kind of impact it can have. If, however, your goal is brand awareness, and by the way, the DSP is something that's used quite often by non-endemic advertisers even as a way to build brand awareness for people that can't even convert and buy on Amazon. But if it is more about brand awareness, then we would suggest flipping that split on its head. So invest around 60% or 70% in the upper funnel and 30 to 40 in the lower funnel. Again, the importance is having a mix of both. So this is really why it's called a full funnel approach to advertising, because at any time, regardless of your objective, you're going to want to use the full funnel of targeting types available to you from Amazon. So the two most common challenges we hear once advertisers have campaigns set up and they start running them. The first one is, we hear all the time, I just don't understand whether the DSP is working for me. And that's understandable. It's often very new to people. But my advice here is always focus on the metrics that matter and not just ROAS. Oftentimes, the people that come to me and say, I can't figure out whether they're working or not, it's because they're literally just looking at their ROAS number and nothing else. And we understand that. That's because that's the world that you've come from sponsored advertising normally. But here's some tips on some of the other metrics I would constantly keep an eye on, regardless of the strategy that you have on the DSP. The first one is estimated cost per detailed page view. It's a great metric to understand the effectiveness of driving traffic to your product pages. And it's a really, really great metric in measuring the impact of those top of funnel campaigns. We do experience wide variations from category, but expect somewhere between 50 cents and $2 as a good benchmark. Second one is purchase views and purchase clicks. This obviously allows you to understand the purchasing journey of customers. How many of those people that you're driving the awareness to are ending up going to look at your product, and how many of them even get to the point where they click to go and purchase. Understanding the percentage between the two against your strategy and the funnel position is really, really important, but both metrics are critical in understanding the effectiveness of DSP campaigns. And the third one I'd encourage you to look at is new to brand purchases and branded search volume. New to brand purchases being how many people have never bought from my brand before. That shows you that if you're achieving a high volume of new to brand purchases, that you're targeting people and exposing people that had never heard of your brand before, in all likelihood. So the campaigns are working from an awareness perspective. And another great indicator metric of that is branded search volume. If your branded search volume increases after running your DSP campaigns or during the flight of them, it's clear that people are noticing your brand and going onto Amazon to go and search for what you do. The final thing I am hearing often is, time and time again, my ROAS is low. We keep coming back to it, but we hear a lot that despite that guidance, ROAS is obviously still a key metric that people want to look at. In truth, the only, and I would say the best answer to this goes back to AMC, which if you really want to understand the ROAS, which ultimately is all about driving those purchases, you need to understand the interconnection between all of the marketing touch points. And these are just some benchmarks from across clients. We're seeing that a user is 1.4 times more likely to purchase after viewing streaming TV and display, 1.9 between streaming TV and a product ad, sponsored product ad, and the same between, sorry, there's a typo here, but straight between streaming TV and a display ad. But the key to answering the question on ROAS is really using the data available to you through Amazon, which comes through Amazon Marketing Cloud. So now you guys know what the DSP is, what the targeting types are that are available, how we'd recommend measuring and looking at those campaigns, and you know some challenges. But I wanted to give you a flavor for what getting it right can do for you. And we've seen in the right fit accounts, getting it right can yield some extremely impressive results. And I'm going to share with you a case study from, yes, in this case, it comes from one of our global CPG brands. And they came to us because they wanted to accelerate the volume of store sales on Amazon ahead of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They happen to be in a category which is not typically associated with the peak season, but they wanted to maximize the traffic that would be available over that time period and have people think, when I want that type of product and I'm already purchasing a ton of other products on a really big day for me, let's chuck some in the basket from this brand. What we did in the lead up to Black Friday and Cyber Monday was primarily focus on the upper funnel and building prospecting lists. And you can see these lines. Purple is sales and green. Purple is sales and green is volume. So what we saw was that in the lead up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we weren't seeing a spike in sales. And actually our ROAS was only around 1.84, which is, if you're investing, probably not something that you're absolutely psyched about spending more and more money on. But we expected that because that was all about building upper funnel awareness. As we reached the peak Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, we switched our strategy away from primarily upper funnel towards lower funnel retargeting and remarketing. That meant we searched for the people that over the previous weeks had seen our ad and come and checked out our product. And what we saw was a huge spike during that week, because people, when they were buying those products, recalled ours and bought the product. And our ROAS grew to 11.68%. Really impressively, our new to brand percentage was 51.35%, and our detailed page view rate was 0.49%, which, when you think about the broad like reach type objectives, again, go back to being in Times Square or walking through the mall, is a really strong percentage. In our experience, there's 3 key pillars to being successful in the DSP, and it takes time. First one is strategic audience building. Be very, very strategic and be very aware of the targeting types that you're using, and use those audience types and the first party data to your advantage. Then be meticulously detailed and pay attention to line item creation. Line item creation is the process you'll go through in setting up your campaigns. The more that you can, essentially, the more elements you provide for targeting and getting users on the DSP, the more likely you are to be successful. And finally, make sure you push the right products and use the right metrics. Right products, make sure you push your hero products. Don't use this as a way to try and get rid of excess inventory. This is about showing off your brand in the best light, and use the right metrics, not just ROAS. And if you can really understand all of that together, you'll be hugely successful in the DSP. Final thing is, if you're already running DSP campaigns or start to run them, a great source of information are our benchmark reports. We're about to release in a couple of weeks our results from Q1. But for now, you can see our metrics in terms of CPM, click-through rate, CPC, etc., broken down by category. Just go to our website and search for benchmark reports. And you can even see performance benchmarks by stage of the funnel. So I hope that's really helpful for anyone that's already running DSP campaigns or wants to know what good looks like in their industry. With that, I'd like to thank you all for taking time to listen into my talk today. I hope you learned what the DSP is, the targeting types available, when it's right to use it and when it's not, and some tips and tricks to get it right. Thank you very much.
Inside the VP package. And someone from Perpetua, Mark's colleague, her name is, Alice Yin. Alice, yeah. So she recorded for us additional value added video. Could you give us a little bit summary what she's talking there about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Alice is going to go through primarily content around sponsored brand video ads. So she'll go beyond the basics of designing engaging video content to reach customers at every stage of their journey. So she's going to go through step by step how to plan, launch, and evaluate sponsored brand video ads. And yeah, you can join her for tips that you can take away to be sure that your product's detail pages are fully optimized and that your videos meet all of Amazon's requirements and that your ads are set up for success.
Yeah, perfect. And as I said, this package has not only Alice video, but we have 20 more. And every speaker from this list, they are sharing either blueprint or a checklist or downloadable template or SOP or step-by-step guide what you can do, different things about. And all this, you will find a link below in the description. You'll find a link to this page and you can read more about each session, what is inside, what you can find there. And if you want, you can, of course, invest in this package. So that was the VP video. And I think now we have a few questions, right?
Yeah, I think let's take one of the first questions. Let's talk a little bit about what's the goal with using Amazon DSP. So how should sellers decide whether the goal should be to get more sales or grow brand awareness when I start advertising with DSP?
That's an incredibly subjective question, I must say. But I think first and foremost, it starts with whatever your business objective is or wherever you're potentially facing growth challenges or what you see as the key to scaling your growth. So let me give you an example. Perhaps I'm in a super competitive space and I know that there's tons of competitors that have very similar products to me. And perhaps it's quite a transactional product. So there's not a huge difference between my product and my competitors. In that case, building a brand around the product is a really great way to, when people are thinking about those products, associate your brand with that item. And in that case, I'd be focusing on you using the DSP as a great way to build brand awareness, right? So customer associates brand X with product B. Those things go together. That will grow your sales, obviously, but it is a much more brand awareness focused objective. On the flip side, perhaps you're using the DSP to build interest, like the example I shared from our CPG client ahead of a big sale period. And your creative, your message is going to be different. It's going to be much more sales driven. Perhaps you're trying to tell people about the great offers you're going to have over the Black Friday period. In that case, your goal should be more towards driving like sales messaging, and you should be more focused on sales metrics in that use case. So totally depends. I don't think it's a one way or the other. And is also one of the reasons why I think if you're going to explore the DSP, get expertise and people that have experience in running them to help you out, to be honest.
Okay, very good. So Rich is asking, what does OTT stand for again?
It's a great question, and I'll probably get slapped on the wrist for calling it OTT. It should be called streaming TV now. It stood for over the top, I believe, but it is basically streaming TV ads.
Okay, very good. So let's take another one. So what are the main platforms where these ads are displayed off Amazon?
So either Amazon owned and operated properties that are not Amazon.com. So think about Twitch, IMDb, Fire TV, those types of placements, and then third-party publishers. That can be anyone from like premium publishers like the New York Times, Forbes, all those ones I showed earlier, through to websites you probably have never even heard of, or I've never even heard of. That's the beauty of the exchange. The exchanges basically provide inventory from all over the web, but are based around the user. So wherever the user is, and if there's an impression available, it can be purchased. It's why it's important actually to have tight controls around that. There's a very often talked about concept in programmatic advertising called brand safety, which is essentially about ensuring that your ads land on pages that are contextually relevant and appropriate for your brand. And you want to make sure that when you're running DSP campaigns, you've got those brand safety measures in place in order to ensure that your ads do appear in appropriate places. But long answer to your question, they can appear really in lots and lots of different places all over the internet, and on Amazon's owned and operated platforms.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for that. So there's a question about why DSP is only available through ad agencies.
Possibly a question for Amazon more than me, but I'll give you my view on this is that, like I said, it's quite different to sponsored advertising, and to be successful, you do really need a much more hands-on approach than you would through sponsored advertising. So perhaps it's intentional that it needs to be done through agencies, so there's that tighter control, and it's in the hands of experts. I also just think that the system is probably not ready for the scale of anyone to be able to access it right now. I would say this, I'm slightly biased to work for a software company in advertising, but generally speaking, Amazon's ad tools are clunky and hard to use. And if you think that the ad console is clunky and hard to use, you should see how difficult it is in the DSP. So that's probably why, but it's probably one for Amazon. I'm not sure if that answers the question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, probably it will. And I already showcased the next question that's kind of related to it. So what is like the average monthly budget for running DSP ads? So if any sellers are watching us right now and are thinking they would like to contact an agency to think about like possibly running DSP ads, then what type of seller should really think about it?
Don't know the average monthly budget, primarily because there's so many different sizes, even in our customer set. What I can tell you is that, for example, we have a minimum spend per month of 5K on the DSP, which is probably a minimum monthly budget, which will give you an idea of the size and scale that people tend to invest, even as a starting point. Generally speaking, the reason for that is it's more hands-on and there's more resource required to run it. So the size of the investment needs to be slightly larger. Not sure about the average monthly overall though.
Okay, and I know there's different kind of data available also with the DSP. So there's a question: what customer behavior data is available through DSP, and could I benefit from knowing the data for running Amazon PPC ads?
That's an amazing question. What customer behavior data is available through the DSP? So there's so much that I could talk about. I don't know if we're sharing these slides as a follow-up. If not, feel free to reach out to me and I can share them with you, whoever that is, just go through perpetua.io website or connect with me on LinkedIn. Basically the customer behavior data depends on the behavioral targeting that you would like to do. So genuinely there's hundreds and hundreds of different behavioral types that you can target and interest types. So yeah, I can't really say anything without listing out hundreds of types to you. But if you think about any behavior that a customer would take on Amazon, that's pretty much available to target through the DSP. And absolutely, smart advertisers that we're working with are using that data, not necessarily for running PPC ads, but it gives you a really good idea for if you know your audience size in category 1 versus category 2. That tells you how many shoppers are in market for those products, which can significantly influence how much you end up investing on those products yourself. Actually, not just from a PPC perspective, from developing your business as a whole, right? It gives you a great indicator for demand. So yeah, definitely don't look at these things in silo, look at them together. Any more information on the targeting types, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, very cool. So what's the difference of remarketing and retargeting? I think you had both on your slides, right?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So remarketing is someone that's bought from me in the past. I target them again. And retargeting is someone who's come to my product detail page and not converted. I want to show them an ad. So past purchaser versus past visitor.
Okay, very good. So does DSP work differently in US and EU?
Yeah, very differently in some cases. Major differences are firstly audience size. Of course, the US is one big targeting market, whereas the EU is broken into lots of countries. Then in each country, there's different media available. Like, for example, Twitch isn't available in some countries, whereas it is available in others. And actually, the audience pools differ significantly by country. Obviously, population is one indicator, but the penetration of Amazon in the UK is completely different to what it is in Poland, for example. So there's many more nuances, I'd say, in Europe, and it's probably why there's been slower adoption of the DSP in Europe thus far. It's actually not available in all markets yet in Europe. There's only a handful of markets. So yeah, quite differently, actually.
Okay, very good. So regarding running ads, is there a certain set of creatives sellers need for doing DSP ads?
I guess there's a difference between need and can use. Need, you could run with kind of, let's say, without making this horribly complex, with the most basic forms of creatives, which you can actually use without building creatives yourself. So you can use kind of out-of-the-box creatives, essentially. Is that the most effective strategy? No, there's tons of different creative types and even different media types. You can buy audio, video, image display ads. So the ones that are getting the most success are testing different creative types. Often that's difficult, especially with things like video. Like video's an expensive thing to create. But plug for tools like ours, obviously, we can help make that a lot easier with video creator tools and so forth. So yeah, there is not a certain set that you need to use for DSP, but I'd highly encourage a creative-led approach to running campaigns on the DSP if you want them to be super effective, especially in the upper funnel.
Okay, very good. And I think here is the last question. So is Amazon developing Amazon DSP in the same way as we see updates inside of Advertising Manager?
Not sure I fully understand the question, but if I am understanding it correctly, I think you're asking, are they going to be updating and launching new tools in the DSP like they do the ad console. You know,
Yeah,
things
I
change
think,
every
yeah,
week.
probably, because I think inside of the ad console there have been like many new features and different tools inside. Like, from your experience, like, is Amazon like putting in effort to grow the DSP even bigger and more useful for the sellers?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I think about our partnership with Amazon, we're spending more time with them working on and talking about the DSP. And actually, from our perspective, we are developing our own software in order to make the DSP more automated and more scalable. So watch this space. We hope to be able to unplug sellers that are less sophisticated with DSP to access it more seamlessly and easily through Perpetua. But you can definitely bet on Amazon trying to do the same. I think at this point, there's still question marks about how to access the DSP at scale. I don't think it'll be the same as being able to just sign up like you do in the ad console. But if you think about the long term here, and this is going slightly philosophical into the whole digital marketing ecosystem, but there's some significant changes that have happened and are happening around us. So iOS 14 significantly hampered Facebook's ad targeting abilities, and with the deprecation of the cookie, we're going to see that across lots and lots of other marketing channels out there in the digital ecosystem. The ones that are not impacted by that are the ones that use first-party targeting, i.e. their own data to target, and Amazon is the best in the entire industry as a way to do that. So they need to invest more in here and make it accessible if they want to use all those ad dollars. And now, for the first time, Amazon released their results with advertising broken out as a line item, and it's clear it's growing, I think, 40% quarter on quarter, and is now Amazon's most profitable part of its business, ahead of AWS. Who would have thought that 2 years ago? So, long answer to your question, definitely think it will develop in the same way. So watch this space.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark, for this insights about DSP. I hope a lot of people watching this video long term will get some ideas what they can do and how can they use. Of course, it's not for the beginners. It's there are some requirements. And as you say, Perpetua can help with DSP as well. So it's a good place to maybe listen again how Perpetua can help Amazon sellers. And I know you are not only helping Amazon sellers, also Walmart. And there is this marketplace, which I always forget because I'm from Europe.
Instacart.
Instacart, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, give us an overview again about Perpetua, please.
Yeah, so we're primarily building software, but we also have services to support all types of retail media advertising. So Walmart, Instacart, but also we work with Criteo, Citrus, and frankly, wherever there will be retail media dollars available to be purchased, Perpetua will be plugging into that and allow sellers to advertise those products on those marketplaces. But on the Amazon side of things, we offer software and services for sponsored advertising and for DSP. On the DSP side, we offer a fully managed service. So if people don't know how to run DSP and they want someone to do it for them, we are one of Amazon's preferred partners and can unlock that for them. We also have the ability to leverage our seat to access the inventory and for customers to run their ads on their own. And we're building an automated software for DSP. So it's quite an interesting space on the DSP side of things. But we are experts in any type of marketplace advertising. So if you need any help on any of the aforementioned marketplaces, or are finding yourself spending way too much time running Amazon sponsored ads, for example, feel free to reach out to us and I'm sure we can help you.
Yeah, perfect. And you will find below the link to Perpetua. So contact them also watch other videos. I think we will put a link to some more videos with other people from Perpetua. There are some great tutorials we had in the past. And thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Lisette.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Bye. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Joel Aselva from Perpetua, where he explains the difference between the DSP and sponsored display ads.